Of the sweeping federal raid being called one of the largest in Philadelphia history. Tonight, dozens have been indicted in an alleged drug ring stretching from Kensington to Puerto Rico.
Permanently removed a drug trafficking organization out of the streets of Philadelphia, and they're going to stop pouring guns and chemicals and drugs into our communities, and our children are safe.
Philadelphia has seen drug raids before, but nothing like this. In the early hours of October 24th, 2025, the city woke up to flashing lights, roaring engines.
Today, that 33 people have now been charged, 30 taken into custody, all of it following a very visible raid just before 11 a.m. today. Dozens of FBI agents descending on a home here along Weymouth Street in Kensington.
And the sound of doors being kicked in across Kensington. The neighborhood, long known as America's open-air drug capital. For years, this place symbolized the collapse of the war on drugs. Addicts sprawled on sidewalks, needles scattered across playgrounds, and dealers operating in broad daylight. But at 4 a.m.,
drug trafficking conspiracy spanning nearly a decade, involving tremendous volumes of fentanyl and narcotics, and it takes place at the epicenter of the opioid crisis.
That morning, the silence was shattered. Hundreds of federal agents, police officers, and DEA teams moved in under one name, Operation Liberty Line. Within hours, 47 arrests were made. Millions in fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine were seized. And one of the most dangerous drug networks on the East Coast was gone.
Agents surrounding several homes on the 3100 block of Weymouth Street after an early morning federal raid across several Kensington.
Before sunrise, unmarked SUVs rolled quietly down Kensington Avenue. SWAT trucks stopped outside rows of decaying row houses. Then came the command, execute. In seconds, flashbangs ignited. Agents stormed homes one after another, breaking down doors, dragging suspects into the streets.
This is exactly how you safeguard American lives. You go after the organizations that are inflicting pain across America.
And finding what they had long been hunting, drugs stacked to the ceiling, weapons wrapped in towels, and duffel bags of cash stuffed beneath floorboards. Neighbors described the sound as war in the middle of the city. By dawn, the FBI, DEA, and Philadelphia police had dismantled what prosecutors called the largest narcotics network in the district's modern history, a multi-state pipeline that stretched from Mexico to Pennsylvania. This wasn't a single bust, it was a declaration of war. Kensington isn't just a neighborhood, it's a warning. For decades, it's been the face of the opioid epidemic, blocks lined with addicts, collapsing bodies, and open drug deals happening in plain view of children. For many residents, calling 911 became useless. Dealers returned the next day. Gunfire echoed every night. Authorities say this operation wasn't just about drugs, it was about reclaiming a community that had lost all hope of normal life. One officer put it bluntly, "You can't heal a neighborhood if it's still bleeding." The main target of the raid was the Weymouth Street Organization, a ruthless group of traffickers who ruled Kensington like a cartel. For nearly a decade, they ran a network that pumped fentanyl, crack, heroin, and cocaine across Philadelphia, Delaware, and New Jersey. The group used violence to maintain control. Kidnappings, shootings, and intimidation were routine. When federal prosecutors unveiled the indictments, they called it a precision strike against a cancer that's been eating this city alive. 33 members were federally indicted. 32 are already behind bars. And for the first time, the FBI said publicly, Kensington is no longer theirs. The raid was the culmination of 6 months of undercover infiltration. Federal agents posing as buyers tracked shipments from Mexico through Texas and into Philadelphia's ports. Using encrypted devices and burner accounts, the traffickers coordinated massive deliveries disguised as construction supplies and food shipments. Once the drugs hit Philly, the Weymouth crew distributed them across local corners, each generating tens of thousands of dollars a day. Investigators say the organization was tied to at least 3 Mexican cartels, making it one of the largest U.S. drug rings ever dismantled east of the Mississippi. By the time the operation ended, $12 million in narcotics, $2.4 million in cash, and 120 illegal firearms were seized. Among those weapons, fully automatic AR-15s, homemade suppressors, and imported handguns modified for maximum damage. This wasn't street-level dealing. It was warfare disguised as business. In one apartment above a laundromat, agents found what looked like an ordinary bedroom until they lifted a mattress and discovered a hidden trapdoor. Below it, an illegal pill press still warm from operation. Investigators said the machine could produce 10,000 counterfeit oxycodone tablets per hour, pills laced with fentanyl, potent enough to kill an entire block with a single batch. Elsewhere, DEA teams uncovered basement labs filled with chemical drums, blending equipment, and packaging machines. Each lab, officials said, was a silent factory of death. These weren't addicts making a living, one agent said. These were businessmen in the business of killing people. Every empire has a face, and this one belonged to a man known only as El Doctor. According to the indictment, he wasn't a local. He was a cartel-linked trafficker who arrived in Philadelphia in 2020 under the guise of running a community outreach program. Behind the charity facade, El Doctor coordinated bulk shipments of narcotics from Mexico and laundered profits through shell companies in Delaware and Puerto Rico. Agents say he communicated exclusively through encrypted phones and demanded his lieutenants memorize every address and number, nothing written, nothing traceable. When they finally caught him, he was hiding in a basement apartment surrounded by medical equipment, forged passports, and a gold-plated Glock. When the raid was over, investigators cataloged what they'd seized. Over 47 high-profile arrests, more than $12 million in narcotics, 120 illegal firearms, 9 vehicles, and $2.4 million in cash. Agents also discovered dozens of fake IDs, stolen immigrant databases, and encrypted laptops containing detailed ledgers of every sale, proof that this network wasn't random chaos. It was structured, methodical, and global. The statistics are staggering, but the human toll is worse. In Philadelphia, fentanyl overdoses have surged by over 400% since 2020. Paramedics now respond to as many as 70 overdose calls a weekend, most traced back to the same suppliers targeted in this raid. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Families are broken. Maria Lopez, a Kensington resident who lost her son to an overdose last year, told reporters through tears, "I don't hate the addicts. I hate the people who made this street their business." For her and thousands like her, October 24th wasn't just a police operation, it was justice. By sunrise, the streets of Kensington were eerily quiet. No dealers on corners, no lookouts, no cars pulling up for midnight exchanges. Residents stepped outside to see something they hadn't seen in years: uniformed officers walking freely without fear. But everyone knew it wouldn't last. For every drug ring dismantled, another waits to fill the void. Still, for one morning, the city exhaled. The open-air drug market was closed, at least temporarily. Hours later, at a packed press conference, federal officials stood before tables piled high with seized cash, drugs, and weapons. One by one, they spoke. This is what happens when you let law enforcement do its job. This is what happens when federal, state, and city agencies work as one. We are reclaiming our neighborhoods. Standing beside them was FBI Director Kash Patel, who called the operation a blueprint for future urban crackdowns. When the drugs and guns come in, they need distribution networks, he said. Today, we proved that those networks can be dismantled. This wasn't just about one city. The same task force that dismantled the Weymouth Street gang is now targeting similar operations in New York, Baltimore, and Chicago, cities crippled by the same synthetic opioid flow. Officials say 90% of synthetic opioids in America originate from chemical labs in China, shipped through Mexico, and distributed by cartels using local street gangs as proxies. Philadelphia, they said, was a perfect example of how those two worlds collide: international trafficking meeting urban decay. And this time, the feds struck first. Not everyone agrees with the strategy. Critics argue that mass arrests and raids treat symptoms, not causes. That addiction requires rehabilitation, not incarceration. Supporters fire back. Without enforcement, there's no city left to save. As one prosecutor said, you can't have treatment without safety. First, you stop the poison. Then, you heal the wound. And that's exactly what Operation Liberty Line aimed to do: stop the bleeding before it reached the next generation. In the weeks since the raid, Kensington looks different. City crews are cleaning abandoned lots. Outreach groups are returning to hand out recovery resources. But under the surface, tension remains. Locals whisper about who might replace the Weymouth crew, whether rival gangs will try to reclaim the block, or whether the calm is just an illusion. One resident summed it up best: the cops took the drugs, but fear's still here. Zoom out, and you see the real picture. This wasn't just Philadelphia cleaning up its streets. It was America's front line in a war that's evolved beyond borders. A war fought not just against cartels, but against chemistry, corruption, and complacency. Every pill press is hidden in a basement. Every fentanyl shipment is disguised as freight. Every overdose victim found slumped in a doorway. It all connects. The takedown in Kensington wasn't the end. It was the opening move in a nationwide counteroffensive. Tonight, the streets of Philadelphia are quieter. 47 traffickers gone. Millions in poison seized. But beneath the surface, the battle continues. Because in America's drug war, victory isn't measured in arrests or cash. It's measured in how long the silence lasts after the sirens fade. And in Kensington, for the first time in years, there's finally silence.